Japan, 1761, Harima Province. Daimyo Saki Tazazumi is one of the most significant advisors to the Edo shogunate and governs the region from the Himeji Castle. Thus, it is the best interest of the various local clans to curry favor with the Sake clan. To achieve influence, they will have to insert members of their family into every level of life within the White Castle, from political roles to military positions, and even down to the lowliest landscape workers, who care for the smallest details of the palace's gardens. In the White Castle, players take on the role and leaders of minor clans who vie for the position in their clan's future in the court of the White Hero. Cunning and timely management of resources and placement of family members within Himeji Castle will be the key to victory. Today on the board, boys.
The White Castle.
Not the restaurant.
Harold and Kumar.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Board Boys Podcast, Season 13, Episode 9, The White Castle. Not to be mistaken with White Castle burgers and fries and chicken rings. This is your board boy, Shogunate Rob.
This is your board boy, Combo Wombo TK.
This is your board boy. Much like Harold and Kumar, I will never actually make it to the White Castle if that means winning this game.
Oh, poor Harold and Kumar and Jake.
So wait, I guess spoilers, but they actually don't make it to White Castle?
No, I think they actually do make it to White
Oh, okay.
Castle.
All right.
They do.
Okay.
I mean, I think they eventually find it.
Yeah.
I can't believe there's a sequel to that movie.
There's a sequel to that movie?
Yeah, I think they start in Guantanamo Bay or
Oh,
something.
that's right. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
And they're trying to go to White Castle?
Maybe?
Or they're just trying to escape?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen it, but I really like both of those actors.
Yeah.
Like, that movie's just ridiculous, though. Well, you'll notice we are missing Boinker McDoinker Cam today because he had a baby.
Yeah.
And he's at home with said baby where he should be. So
yeah. Boinker McDoinker Jr. is what you called her.
Boinker McDoinker Jr.
Yeah.
Juniorette.
Juniorette, yeah. I don't know. She's apparently sleeping well. I don't know. Doing good.
Yeah, doing all the things babies should be doing.
Easy delivery, sounded like. So
Yeah, like Uber Eats.
yeah, just showed up.
Which you can get White Castle through, right?
Oh, you
Uber
can?
Eats?
Yeah.
Probably. Do you think
Yeah.
they deliver to Des Moines?
Probably not.
I mean, if you pay enough, anybody will do anything.
There's
You know what I'm saying?
like, I remember. Do you remember those stories back when Uber was like first a thing? And I recall this one where some drunk student called an Uber and while he was drunk set it to his home, not his college dorm. And he lived like 8 hours away. And he just got in the car and passed out. And the dude drove him to his house. And it was like a $2,000 Uber ride or something.
Did he sleep the entire 8-hour drive?
I don't know, but
I mean, if you wake up 5 hours in and you're already 5 hours there, you might as well just finish it out.
right, like you might as well go home.
Yeah.
Like if you're the Uber driver, like you really just do that?
I mean,
like I'm just gonna do it.
I mean, what are the chances that college student has enough in their bank account to cover that Uber expense?
I don't know
True.
if it's
It's probably just tied to a credit card.
yeah, like, why would you take a 16-hour round trip as a fare?
I mean, 16 hours, $2,000. I mean, I guess Uber gets a big cut of that.
Yeah,
What do you think the dude made on that per hour?
I don't know, not very much.
No.
Yeah,
Not
not
enough.
enough. Yeah, we got to pay for gas, all that other stuff. Yeah,
Right.
your wear and tear in your car.
True.
Mileage is expensive.
That's a lot of things.
Sounds terrible. You got to sit in a car with
And
a
he-
drunk dude
and,
for 8
like,
hours.
He probably didn't get tipped.
Yeah.
I mean, not with a $2,000 fare, most likely.
Yeah, and then also they probably tried to reverse the charges later.
Yeah, I think it's on Uber, probably not the driver, but
Yeah, you'd hope so.
well, Uber is kind of not the most wonderful company in the world, I would imagine.
Yeah. Well, this is a board game podcast, and we just got back from Cardboard Caucus. We got a lot of games to probably talk about, but I think some of them are probably going to turn into episodes. So
For sure.
we're going to try to not blow our entire wad here. And then next episode is going to be live from BGGCon with TBD guests. Because I don't know who's going to be there.
Yeah.
Actually,
It'll definitely be you.
it will be me.
Okay.
BJ from Board Game Gumbo.
It'd be awesome if
I
you
think
just
we'll make it.
had somebody else do the show.
Just not me.
Not you,
Just
yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
else. That'd be pretty funny. And
BJ
then
can definitely host this show anytime he wants.
I think Berkey from Game Toppers is going to join us as well. The Berkmeister. I played games with him at BGGCon before. Berkey's a really cool guy. Anyway, Tim, what have you been playing?
I think I want to talk about 3 Ring Circus, and I will talk about the correct rules,
Tight.
which I think we will finally get right on our third play.
Which is also by Devir.
It's also by Devir.
Right?
Yep. Yeah. So in 3 Ring Circus, you are creating a circus. I guess maybe it's 3 circuses. 3 circuses? I don't know.
So it's. I read this today.
You did. Okay.
And it's because it's in a circus.
It's the
there's
performances.
3 rings
Okay.
in the big circus
Okay.
tent, right? So each line of your player board is one of the different rings of the circus.
Perfect. So you have 3 rows in your player board. They're 5 cards?
Yes.
5 cards. And you are either playing a performer into a row, which will get you kind of some benefits, or you're doing a performance. And they're when you play a performer, you put them down, you pay a cost, depending on what they are, and you use your cards that you have that are also performers to pay the cost. So there's money cards, there's points cards, there's ticket cards, and you kind of play all of those, and depending on how big they are, will kind of get you bigger and better benefits. So you play those performers, or you make a performance, and there are 3 types of performances. One is a small performance where you get money, and then you have a medium performance where you get the medium kind of artisans, I guess, the performers, right? And then the last one is the big one where you get points. So you use the small performers, the money cards, to get more of the bigger performers, and use the bigger performers to do very specific large performances. So you have to have an exact performer doing something to score points for the big ones. And that's basically all you do through the whole game. You kind of chase around a circus, the Barnum Circus.
Area control in the different areas.
Yeah, so and that will score like the kind of different regions, and you do some area control there, and then you tally up the points in the end. It was interesting. It was we have not played it fully correct yet. That's my bad.
Yeah, I mean, last time was pretty much correct, I
Yeah,
think. But
for the most part. The first time so when you buy a performer, you pay the difference of the highest number performer you have in your row and the one you're playing. So they could be free if you have, say, a 13 already and you play a 9, right?
yeah, I think that's the coolest part of the game.
Yeah. So it
to
could be
me
free.
anyway.
We were playing the first time by paying the full amount for every performer, which basically meant it was an area control game. We performed a lot.
Yeah, I mean, but we were also racing for who was going to actually be able to get the right things. But we often fulfilled those big performances with like one of the components because we had no money to do any otherwise.
Yeah. It's cool. It's a cool game. I'd like to play it some more.
Yeah, it's got that nice small box.
Yeah. It was an interesting balance of like whether you play your artisans out or play your performers or do a performance, and kind of what that means and how you score areas. And
I thought it was cool where you were basically covering up things on your board too. Like some performers would give you movement, but you had movement right off the bat on your board. And so if you covered up movement spaces and you didn't have any performers that added to your movement, or you covered up these different symbols on your board, you have less of that thing. So you had to be careful with that. And like the more you cover it up, the more you can get more points, but you gotta do that carefully. The only thing I really had a problem with was I thought with the big circus acts, it was weird that you had to have that exact card to be able to do it.
That was probably my biggest grievance too, because you can just not be in a position like that card could pop up like right after your turn and you just not be in a position to get it, and then well, I guess I'm never going to score that one in the area that I'm at. So I didn't really love that aspect of it, and I don't think that has anything to do with us playing it wrong. It's just a matter of
I just wonder how many of each of those cards are in the deck, and like. Yeah, there's no way to really plan for that. It's like you got to see what where it is and when you grab it, but you start with one of those cards too, right? It's
do.
like you could potentially start with one that's on the board and be like, okay, I at least know I can go shoot for that thing over there.
I mean, I know that I guess the rush to get there is only so much, but it also feels kind of gross when I've like set up to where I can score all 3 of them, and then somebody just shoots in with one of them and then beats me to the spot and takes some of the points because you get more points for getting there first, which I guess they're sacrificing points from not having the whole of the combination, but I don't know. I also didn't love the board. I know you have only so much room to work with, but it's really misleading sometimes where those middle cities are because they can be really far away from the thing that's showing you where it's at.
Yep, I was confused by that too.
And in the first play, granted, again, that play is heavily tainted by some of the mistakes that we made, our mistakes. There were times where I was moving towards that and then realized, oh, I've used like 2 turns worth of movement to get to where this is not. But I don't know. I guess you get used to that as you go. So
I don't know. It's the game I've thought about the most that I've played lately, so I thought it was neat.
Yeah, that's cool.
I definitely want to play it again and with the right rules and see how it goes.
Jake, what do you got?
In sticking with the Devir theme, I'm going to talk about 2 Devir games. So the first one I want to talk about is Savernake Forest. And it is, again, also by Devir. Its designer is Rodrigo Rego, and its artist is Nuria Aparicio. So what you're doing here is you're building a 4x4 grid, and it is a collection of animals and then the food that they eat. And so each animal has some points that it's worth, the number of goods that it can eat, and then how many points it earns for each of the 4 different foods, which are worms, eggs, acorns, and I can't think of the other one right now. But anyways, all the animals are different in what they're going to score. And so then you're either taking an animal card, which there's one of, or one of the 3 paths. And so you're building out the path that the animal is going to traverse to get the food, but you can't ever have animals that are on the same path, so you need to build dead ends in. It's something I've played with Nora quite a few times, and she really likes the animal. The art's really cute, so it's a good kids game. But also there's definitely some depth in some of the decisions you make and long-term planning. Whether you take a less optimal path with the hopes that you're going to get an animal later that scores it. But it's quick. It's a really easy teach, and there's some good depth to it. So I would recommend it. And again, that's Savernake Forest. And the other thing I want to talk about, again, speaking of Devir, is Red Cathedral, which is a game that I really enjoy. For the Secret Santa last year, Tim got me the Contractors expansion to it, which I hadn't broken out yet until last week, and so I did that. And I think one of the best parts of Red Cathedral is how much the guilds change the game. And so they are, as you're moving around the board to take different resources, depending on where you land in each quarter, there's a guild that gives you some special abilities to change the way things function. And this adds so many new ones that add a lot of really wonky rules and components. So a lot of the guilds come with their own components that aren't even in the game if that guild's not there. And then each of those guilds has 3 different cards that modify what individual actions are on them. It also adds a separate board where you can send contractors to. And what happens out there is basically each of the cities is going to align to one of the towers that you're building, and that's how the game progresses forward as you complete sections of the board that you have reserved for yourself. And so as soon as that tower in the castle, in the cathedral gets finished, then it's going to queue scoring in that city. And then there's a multiplier by the number of sections you built in that tower to the number of contractors you sent to that city. And it also adds a black die, which has the potential to give you some set collection of different items. But it was fun. I really, really enjoyed that game. I think, honestly, I'm mostly just interested in exploring how the different guilds add it. I think you can, it's modular, so you can just not play with the contractors board, which is probably what I'll do long term. I'm not the biggest of expansion guy, but I do love it when there's just like more cards that kind of spice up the way things work, and that's what, the big bulk of that expansion does. So if you like Red Cathedral and you kind of want to experience more diversity of how that plays, I would definitely recommend playing contractors.
I don't remember Red Cathedral that well. It's been
a couple years
3
since
years.
we played here.
I remember it being fun. The dice manipulation was fun. I'd love to play it again.
Yeah, I think I would too.
It wasn't very long.
It's it's probably longer than it's definitely longer than White Castle. I would say it's 3 Ring Circus length.
Okay.
So 45
like 90
minutes.
minutes?
Yeah, no, I would say somewhere, but
I said 45, you said 90.
An hour
No.
to 90 minutes,
Okay.
I'd probably say. I think when I played it, When I played it last week, it was just about an hour. Now, granted, there was no teaching that really need to be done with it. It's a lot of fun. I think the thing I like the least about it is when the die sit there, you spend a lot of your turn just counting to see where the die is going to end, and then it's brutal.
I do remember that.
It's brutal when they all end in the same spot, and you don't want that. But I do love some mechanisms where you can always deduct points to get money, which is hard to get sometimes in that game. So it's fun. I really enjoy it.
Well, I'd like to talk about World Wonders from Arcane Wonders, and the designer is Zay Mendes, and it's a 1 to 5 player game, and I've only played it with 2 so far, a couple of times, and it's kind of funny. We reviewed Foundations of Rome on the podcast, and the only reason why I want to compare it to Foundations of Rome is it's the same exact publisher, and at the time I was like, this could have just been cardboard chits, and you could have played the same game, but they made it big and fancy and it looks cool, which I enjoy. But World Wonders is that same type of game, as in kind of polyomino style, building out a city or area, except for you're all building your own. So kind of the reverse of Foundations of Rome, where it's kind of like they're really not the same game at all, besides they're laying tiles on a board, right?
They're like the inverse of each other. Like,
they are.
Yeah, I didn't play World Wonders, but it looks like everything that Foundations of Rome is from a production value. It looked like World Wonders is like the opposite.
Yeah, it's still like they have really cool little wooden wonder monuments, which is kind of the draw of the game, I think, and they're all unique and they're all cool, and that's kind of the goal, is you want to build them. The unique mechanism in this one is you play 10 rounds, or whoever can finish their population on their board first will end the game. And in the 10 rounds, every round you have $7 to spend, unless you take a loan, which you then have to pay back or lose points at the end of the game. And you can buy roads, you can buy these buildings, you can buy these little towers, and then you can buy wonders. And they all costs anywhere from $1 all the way up to $4 or $5 for a building. And if you want a wonder, they cost the rest of your money. So if there is a wonder you really want, maybe you'll spend more on it, or if you don't really care, you could do a bunch of them, because all the wonders have different building requirements. They all have to be on certain types of terrain and next to certain other things. And you can get a lot of points and different things from building the wonders. The one thing I thought was weird about the game is there's not really any negative to not filling up your board. The main ways you get points are if you can entirely surround your buildings, you get points at the end of the game. If you don't cover up but can be next to on one side of these natural resource squares on the board, you get points. All your wonders are worth points. Every time you build a building, you have these 3 main resources and they get moved over to the right. You score the lowest, whatever the lowest resource marker was, you score points from that. Man, the game is a lot thinkier than it looks. It's pretty simple to teach, but like trying to decide what to build and where to put it on your board, and everything has a different building rule. So like roads can only be built next to certain things. Buildings can only be built next to certain things. And then those towers, there's only one per, well, there might be more than one per round. Depending on the number of players, there's more stuff out every round to buy. But those towers are the only thing that can really save you, because you can build them next to anything, and then roads can then be built back off of those towers. And I don't know how many times in this game I screwed myself by basically stopping the ability to build any new roads and like just blocking myself off from an entire section of my board.
Yeah, because you probably need roads to build buildings next to.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
can you build buildings next to buildings?
Yes.
Okay.
So you can build a building next to the same colored building or a road.
But not other colored buildings.
You can, as long as it can be next to another colored building as long as it's next to the same colored building or road also. Okay. And there's the boards are 2-sided. You can play one with a lake in the middle and one with a river that runs through it. Really neat game. I really like it. I think it's fairly accessible. It looks nice on the board, and it plays up to 5, and I can't imagine it would be that crazy long with that many players too. So World Wonders was kind of the hotness at Gen Con, and it's now hitting stores. Give it a shot. I just want to talk about 2 other quick games. One, High Season, the Grand Hotel Roll and Write. We played this with Ryan Hendrickson, who was on our last podcast, and he co-designed this one with Simone Luciani and Virginia Gili, two of our favorite Italian designers, and it has some good Clemens Franz art. And if you couldn't tell by the name, this is Grand Austria Hotel, the Roll and Write, and it feels just like Grand Austria Hotel. The coolest thing of the game is it's not pads of paper. It is 4 double-sided boards that are all different, and they are all dry erase. So you're never going to run out of pages. And then doing it that way, you have that many different types of boards. And that's what they said. They did the dry erase instead of they wanted to have 8 different boards, and if you try to do that with paper.
Yeah, 8 different pads. Yeah.
That'd be a lot. Or even if they were double-sided.
Yep.
So in this game, think Grand Austria Hotel, only you don't have to have the people to put in the rooms. So basically, they just kind of took the guests out of it, and instead, you're just trying to fill the rooms and close the rooms up. So you're trying to open up hotel rooms, close rooms, and imagine every space on the board basically combo wombos into another space on the board. And that's the game. You play 7 rounds. Every round, you draft 2 dice. And if you know how to play Grand Austria Hotel, you can probably learn the roll and write in 3 minutes.
How long did it take?
We played it in half an hour.
Okay.
So if you want a shorter version, this is just another one of those instances, just like as Orleans Roll and Write game, it feels very much like the base game or the original game in a shorter time. And if you like the flip and write, roll and write genre, I think this will be another hit for you.
Do you know when it comes out?
I don't. I think it missed Essen. It was supposed to be out at Essen, and it was not.
Okay.
So my guess is at this point, maybe early next year. I'll be curious to see if they have it in the BGG library or not, because sometimes they get early games. My last game I want to talk about is a review copy I got in the mail. It is by Cut Games, and it's called Humblebrag. And it's BS meets trivia is the tagline. And the reason I want to talk about it on this podcast was I literally was just in Dungeons Gate asking Melissa if they had a game called Geek Out or something like Geek Out, which is an older game. If you want to see that game played, you can Google it on YouTube, and Will Wheaton's Tabletop did a episode of it, I think. And I think there's been other games like it, but it's basically a game where you draw a category card and then you say how many of that thing you can name. And in Geek Out, you would go around the table and kind of bid on it until someone's like, go ahead and do it. In this one, it's a little different. You can play by yourself or in teams, and you play a card out and you say how many of that thing you can do. And people can either challenge you or not. If they don't challenge you, the next person plays a card out of their hand and says, I can do this many of this thing. And you go until somebody challenges, and you start with 6 cards in your hand. And the idea is to get rid of all your cards. And so if you don't get, then you have a minute to name it. And if you lose the challenge, you have to pick up all the cards that were in the middle minus the one that was just challenged. You draw a new one to replace that. And then if you are the challengee or challenger, anyway, whoever loses the challenge picks up the pile of cards. You can only ever have 6 cards in your hand, so you just go back up to 6. But it's really funny that I literally was just looking for this type of game because it's like a fun party game, and I had it.
It just showed up at your door.
It did.
You thought that thing into existence.
I did. And the cool part is, I mean, their version of the rules is fine. It's neat. It's interesting. But I could just play the Geek Out version with those cards too if I wanted, where you just flip over a card and you bid on it, and whoever wins it gets the card kind of a thing. So you could just modify the rules. But it's kind of similar to the timeline, the new timeline one we got, where we're like, oh, it's now co-op. Well, you can just play it competitively too if you want to. So, if you're looking for a replacement for Geek Out, which I was, check out Humblebrag. I mean, it's fun. I like those kind of party trivia challengey. And Bo and I are always playing this game in the car where it's we name a category and we go back and forth naming things till somebody can't name it anymore. And this just kind of feels like a different version of that.
Sounds like I would be terrible at it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You're not good at...
I know,
you're not good at knowing things?
One very specific thing that I've done for the last 25 years, and that's about it.
Excellent. I'm trying to think. There was one of our cards was name Egyptian gods. Another one was like celebrity couples or celebrities with famous parents, or I don't know. You know, they get us. You can name a category for anything probably, but it was interesting. The card seemed very varied, and there was another pro to that is there was a ton of them in the box. There's like 3 big decks of them that we had to unwrap. So I mean, it's a fairly decent sized box for a party game, and it's
Just all cards.
And it's all cards. So they did that right too. So thanks Cut Games for that review copy. All right, let's get into our main review game tonight, The White Castle. It is by Devir Games. It is 1 to 4 players, best at 3 it says. We did that right tonight. Playing time it says is 80 minutes, 12 plus is the age, 2.97 out of 5 complexity rating. It's currently an 8.0 on BGG, and it came out in 2023. Its current rank is 1011, and the designer is Isra C. and Shay S. Artist Joan Guardet. I'm going to guess she's French. That's what I'm going with. Jake, why don't you tell us what we're doing in this influential clan Japanese game?
So on your basically there are 3 rounds worth of 3 turns. So you are literally taking 9 actions is the entirety of this game. Honestly, real quick, when you said 80 minutes, Tim, can you imagine this game lasting 80 minutes?
No, like it's way faster than that.
I mean, if you're playing with people even if you're playing with people who take a minute, because we took some decent turns a couple times when you were trying to maximize something, but we did it in like 40, and Rob hadn't played before.
My timer said an hour.
Okay.
I was upstairs. Oh, sorry, only 50 minutes. My bad.
Yeah.
And I was upstairs getting chilly for part of that time. And I mean, we're only playing with 3 players. 80. This is one where the box feels like. Does the box actually say 80? It does say 80. This is one where the box is generous with the time.
Yeah.
I think when I played it the second time, and I taught it to a guy Tyler who lived around here, I think we played it in 30 minutes or less. Honestly, it's just it can go really fast. Anyways, back to the description. You are going to take 9 total actions, and what you're going to do, there are these 3 cardboard bridges, which are a pretty cool component to this game, despite being a really small box. And you're either going to take the highest die or the lowest die. You can't take any that are in the middle. And if you take the highest die, then you don't get any extra action. But if you take the lower die, you get to run what's called your lantern, which as the game goes, you're going to accrue cards down there, and you get basically perks for taking the lowest die available. And then you're going to place it on an action space, primarily things that are located in the castle, which is the center part of the board. And from there, you're going to look at what the pips of the die you took are versus what the pips are on the place that you lay it. And then you'll get the dollar difference if it's higher, or you'll pay the difference if it's lower. In a 3 or a 4 player game, you can stack up to 2 dice in a spot, and then that spot's no longer available. In a 1 or a 2, there is no stacking. So then you're going to take all of the actions that correspond to the color of the die that you took. So there's a coral die, a black die, and a white die. And so you can get up to 2 actions in each of those spots. But it kind of depends on the setup of the game, because you flip over as you're doing the setup what color die corresponds with each action space. So you can never have it to where one color does all 3. But you could end up in a scenario where most of the actions are only limited to 1 action. So there's definitely some volatility in how the game's scoring and how valuable actions are going to be based on the way the setup is, which is a cool component that's going to keep the game fresh. As you go through, you are primarily scoring in 3 different areas. The gardens, where you're going to spend food to put gardeners out, which are going to give you immediate actions, and then actions if there's dice remaining on the corresponding bridge. You can take the courier action, which is pulling couriers from your central board and putting them at the gates, and then spending pearls to move higher. So basically you're working up into high society, and then from there you'll be able to collect more cards, which makes your lantern action better. And then there's also the stock yards or military yards, where you're going to spend iron, and then you get to take the action that's accompanies that spot.
And you buy cattle, and then you take them to Okinawa.
That's not a part of this game.
Okay.
Anyways, there are a couple different resources.
You said stockyards.
That sounds like a sweet Great Western Trail game.
Yeah, Great Western Trail, Okinawa.
Yeah.
That could be. It could be next.
Get in the Discord.
I mean, that would be Kobe beef, right?
Yeah.
That's Japanese, right? Yeah.
Oh.
Well, we got an in.
Oh, dude.
Let's make it happen.
Like, send the message right now. Ryan, where are you at, bro?
Anyways, so you're basically building up those 3 areas which are going to do scoring, and so your actions are a mix of getting the resources you need to make your actions better and taking juicy actions where you're going to do a whole bunch of stuff with it. And that's White Castle.
I'm still stuck on this Great Western Trail roll and write, the Kobe beef version.
I dig it. All right, well, let's get to the table and come back with our thoughts on The White Castle. And we're back. All right. Tim, why don't you give us, since you're the White Castle, I think you're Harold and or Kumar.
I'm both of them, actually.
You're Harold and Kumar.
I mean, I've almost doubled your guys' score. So
I don't know if you can math that.
50%.
That's not well, 57 to 38? No. That's like a third of our score.
This is my first time playing. I don't know what Jake's excuse was.
Tim is a savant at this game. He just he sees the matrix of this gives me all the stuff that I need. Or he just cheats and bumps his resources up all the time.
Hey, Tim, give me 10 points.
I mean, I would. Sure. I assume you just scored it. So, yeah, I mean, I kind of saw a little bit about this game. I would say this game is very much up my alley in the kind of combo wombo. So my first kind of impression of this game was pretty ideal. I think it kind of hit all the right spots for me. That's probably how this whole thing will go.
I saw it was another small box Devir game, and because Bamboo was theirs too, right? And that just didn't hit for, I think I liked it the most, and it didn't hit for anybody else. So I got rid of it. And I didn't really like the one you talked about earlier.
Cathedral.
Yeah, but I probably should try that again.
Yeah.
So I was kind of on a pass for this. I thought I like the theme, and I think the box looks really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well, let's just give it a try, and we'll see. I guess I'll open up my thoughts. But originally, I had no interest in this game.
Mm.
My first impressions, so I really like the designers. So not only did they do Red Cathedral, but they also did Shinkansen Zero Kai, which is not Devir, but it's another game that is by them that's a small box that's pretty quick. And I really enjoy that one too. That one didn't really get much attention anywhere, I don't think, but I saw it at Dungeons Gate and saw the designers, and I bought it, and I think I've played it a couple times since. I've been wanting to get it back to the table. But anyways, I was all over this when I saw it. I really liked the art. The theme was cool, and I liked the designers. And once I got it out, I guess my biggest initial thoughts were, I just cannot believe how short this game is.
Mm-hmm.
You take an action, you're like, what? I'm only going to do that 8 more times? And then in the last round, Tim, who was wailing on it, was still like, well, I have another turn. And we're like, no, you don't, man. This is your third action. So it's so fast.
Yeah, so I guess for the pros for me, just to jump in there, you say there's 9 actions, but there's other ways to get more actions. So that really gives me, Suchi does that in a lot of his games, where it's in Praga, Kaput Regni, it's when you want to get that gold window, so you can take another full action. And in this game, you can get another dice as an action on a card. And when you only get 9 actions, that's a whole, another 10% of the game you get to play. And that's huge. And one turn I took 2 extra dice because I took a dice to take a dice. And not only that, I was getting my guys out on the board. And speaking of which, the production in this is great. All the wooden pieces for the 3 different meeple types are all shaped different, and they look really cool. You can totally tell what they are from their outlines. The player boards are good. The art is really nice. I don't know about how was the rule book, because I didn't read it.
Rule book was really good. It's divided into sections that walk through what each thing is going to do. And even though it gives you a player aid, which I just think games should always give a player aid, it's really, you just don't need it. Like, there's just not that much. I mean, occasionally there's an icon that maybe you haven't seen because it hasn't come out on a card before, and you're like, oh, what does that do? But then the back of the rulebook gives you a pretty clear layout of those things. I think for as much as there is on the board with cards and die tokens, I don't feel like it's overwhelming to look at either, because like basically you're going to look at, okay, there's a good coral die. What can a coral die do for me? And it's really clear to see that. So I think that it's not overwhelming, and I think that is a great pro. You often don't get games that are as crunchy as this without, when people first look at it, being like, I'm never going to understand this. I do think for new players, sometimes it's hard to grasp how you score, in that it's those 3 different actions. And generally, I guess I can do a better job in the future of saying the dark background actions are going to give you the things that let you score, and the white background are going to help you get stuff. But it is a super tactical game, and I think that there's a ton to it, and there's enough to think about when it's coming to your turn, and that's obviously going to depend on what people are going to do, that you stay pretty engaged even when somebody's doing something else. And again, it's so fast, like it's back to you and the round is done before you even get there.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't put that together, but that would have been really nice to think about, where the light is the stuff and the dark is like the actions, like the. That makes sense now that you say that, but that did not occur to me during the game. For me, the hardest part of the game was, okay, I need to do this. Where can I do this on the board? But once you kind of know the iconography, and there's only so many symbols, it's not too bad to do that. But then you also kind of got to look at the dice colors next to those things too. So you kind of got to put 2 and 2 together, and just the variability of setup in the game makes it interesting. So you're never going to play 2 games that are quite the same due to the different mix of cards, or different mix of where the dice are, or like the mix of the farmer cards that come out. So there's a fairly high level of variability in it.
Even just within the game, how you roll the dice. Because if you roll a lot of crappy dice, like that or really low dice, and your lantern actions aren't great, like then you get kind of punished. I mean, I had to take a really boring last turn because I just didn't have the money to take a better action, which I think is really cool. I guess if I'm thinking about the things that make me like and appreciate new games the most, one of them is if I play a game the first time and I do everything I wanted to do, that game is not going to age well with me, because there's nothing to think about anymore. And all of the targets of where you're trying to go are kind of unreachable. Like you're never going to reach the end of the track for the seasons path, which is the turn order. You're never going to get you're probably never going to get all of your meeples out there. And it's just, there's always more you're going to want to do. And I think that leaves me wanting to play it more. And also, I think it's really unique. That I love the efficiency puzzle of making sure you have enough stuff to try to do the actions you're going to do. And again, the game changes enough that it always kind of leaves you with different options, even from turn to turn.
Yeah, because we didn't really talk. But so when you take a courtier action, which is basically the castle, you move your guy up and you pull the card off of the space, the action space, which you replace with a new card. So you pull the card, it goes on your tableau, but you replace it with a new card. So like even on someone's turn, an action space can change dramatically, and some of those cards have very different things on them, which could open up a lot of opportunities for you or somebody else, or it can change pretty quickly. And I actually really like that about the game. I think it leads into some weird situations where, like, we had one where on the bottom row, it's kind of you can get more stuff. You can do. It's got 3 dice cube things where you can combo a little bit more on the bottom. So it's a little bit more expensive to do the actions. But like where there was only one of the 3 actions that you could do on the bottom, and it leads you like these weird things of, do we pull those cards off because no one really likes it, or is that an action everybody wants to take, or how do I figure out how to do the other 2 actions that's not on the bottom of the board? It makes it much more tactical and like kind of what's going on and how you have to think about it.
On that same note, I guess we didn't mention this, but on your own personal board, there's action spaces as well. So the more of your meeples that you get out on the board of each of the 3, then makes those actions continually better. So not only are you collecting more resources and money, but also the card that you have there is going to give you an additional action. So some of those end up being white actions, which give you more stuff, but you also can deliberately take a card to put an action that you want to take on the row that you've unlocked the most. So you're getting collection actions and your scoring actions on the same one. And there's a lot of potential to do really cool stuff with that.
Especially like there's the opportunity to combo into more actions, as kind of Rob said. So like if you pull the right card that you have this that gets you the stuff, then you find it to go up to another space that gives you a combo to do that, or it's very engaging.
Yeah, the actions just constantly can be changing.
Yeah.
My favorite mechanism in the game, I think, is the dice. I like where you can take the small one and pay more for it, but you get to run your like little bell engine or tower engine. What is
Lantern.
it? Lantern engine. I knew it was shaped like one of those things. Or if you take a big one, you get money. So I think it's cool. That's like, oh, I need money. I'll take the big dice. Or I don't really need money. I want to run this thing, get all these other things. I can take the little dice.
Sometimes your lantern has $2 or $3 on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think just trying to rev that engine up as fast as possible because you only get 9 turns. Like if the game was longer, like if this game was an extra round, you'd be so revved out. You could do so much stuff that last round probably, just because you have so many things unlocked. And this, it's like the right amount of. I just got to this point where, like, I kind of got things going and I got a couple of really juicy things going, and then it's over. I mean, assuming you do everything right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I really like that. Like it's very specific in the 9 turns. You can combo in some other ones, but it feels perfect, like perfect length.
And it's, games, this isn't something that I guess we talk about all that often, but I really enjoy the beginning too, that going last is not ideal, obviously, because you're getting third or fourth pick of dice, but you start with resources and the action that's on your domain, and you reverse pick those. So the person who's going last can look and see, okay, I can already see what actions exist there. I'm going to take the resources that are going to lend themselves into the action that I want to take. And then if you're first, you're not necessarily getting that ability to start with the resources that you want. So I think that's a nice way to kind of balance out that start.
And when you're last, so the farmer action, you get to run your farmer again, assuming there's a dice on the bridge. So when you're last, you can kind of make you might lose your farmer or whatever, but you can make sure that you're not going to lose your farmer, right? So I went last my first 2 games that I played, which most of the time I hate going last. I didn't feel it was a detriment at all. It was actually you could kind of, for the most part, your last turn is going to be a crappy dice no matter what, whether you're first or last. And being able to make sure that you get to run your farmer, I thought was very key.
Yeah, that's pretty important.
Yeah. Or making sure that someone else doesn't run their farmer.
Do you play more dice with more players?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure, like...
There's always 3 dice left, regardless of how many people are playing.
Okay, gotcha. So there's the same odds that you're going to run farmers in any game then?
And I think, honestly, maybe the biggest difference in going last is if you have money, like, it really doesn't even matter because you can just pay the difference in what they are. So, man, does it feel good when you take, like, a 5 and get to run your lantern because that's the lowest die that's there. So that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, because you roll, like, a 5, 5, 6, 6 or something. Yeah,
like tonight's game, we rolled really cruddy, so we all had to deal with that. But I'd like to play this game again where we roll hot. I feel like that would make the game feel super juicy.
For sure.
I mean,
it's fine. I do really well no matter what.
Well, it's just a different. Like everybody's rich then, right? Like, so. I don't.
Should we switch to cons, or you got more positive things?
Yeah, we can do
I mean, I like how every aspect of the game ties into the other one. So, the 3 ways you really score in the game are the courtesans, the farmers, and then like the warriors. And when you take each one of those off your board, they all produce a resource that a different one of those needs when you build them, for one.
Mm-hmm.
And then the warriors all score based on how well you've done with the courtesans. And then the farmers, I mean, I guess they just give you stuff.
Yep.
They don't really combo with anything, but the farmers give you
the stuff to do everything else.
The stuff to do the other things anyway. So I just like how there's kind of a mix, and like you really, I mean, you can hammer one hard, but you kind of got to do a little bit of everything because a little bit of everything gives you something to do something else, right? So I really like that. That part of the game loop kind of feels good to be like, okay, I need this to do that, to do this kind of a thing.
And it can feel wonderful if you get to where, like, if I have a whole bunch of my courtiers out there, which gives you food, and then I set it up to where I have the action at the end of it where I can do the gardens. And so as soon as I run that thing, I'm getting all the food that I need to take the action to get a lot of points. That's something that Tim utilized worked especially well in a different game we played. Basically, he took that action, got everything he needed, and you had all of your gardeners out, man. I think even the second round of the game, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I would say con-wise, I know you said like being last isn't great. There were just certain times in the game where and I guess I was never last.
I never cared.
But I mean, there were certain times when there was 2 dice on a spot already, and like that's the one spot I really wanted to go. But I mean, that's, worker action selection placement kind of things. Like that's in every game. But it could feel a little worse than this one because you might then also not have the money to do something else. Yeah. Or there's not the dice weren't rolled right, but that plays
caveat. The games that went last, we rolled a lot better than we did this game. So there was a lot more money flowing around, so it wasn't as impactful. This one I went first a bunch. So.
I mean, I don't think it's debilitating. Yeah. It just doesn't feel as good, obviously, when you are taking the 3rd and 6th and 9th actions when you're pulling from a common pool of dice.
I will say the first round, you are mostly clumped up in the turn order thing. So if you hate it, you can probably the turn order action is not as wonderful, it feels like, so you can probably get out of it by doing that.
Yeah, and it just, if it matters to you, then, I mean, I like the fact that turn order is a resource in this game. I mean, if that's important to you, like, taking that action that moves you up on that is an important thing, and if it's not, it's not. But you do get points for it the farther you go along there.
Yep. I mean, and honestly, if you get to the end of that track, that's 15 points, and a good score is 45 or so. I mean, that's a third of your points if you can kind of max that out. Although I've never seen anybody get even close to the end of that track, so that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, I think we've only seen someone get. There's like 3 tiers, second tier.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. My biggest con is understanding how many turns you have left in a round. Like, because there's no real. You have to count dice. That's about the only way to do it.
Yeah,
and
you have to count the dice on the board and know where you are in turn order.
And sometimes if you don't take a very long turn, like you kind of had this happen today, Jake did, where like, did I take a turn? Well, wait, you skipped me. Like that kind of. It's like there's no real like I've placed 2 workers on the board type thing. It's like I placed dice that everybody else has, so you just have to kind of count them and then work your way backwards.
Right, because normally when games are like this, you might take the dice and it might go on your board, or you might indicate something on your board, or you do something to show that you've used up a turn. And there's just nothing in this besides, all right, how many dice are on the board? Where's the turn order at? I mean, you can figure it out fairly easy from that. But there are multiple times.
But if you get skipped, then like it might actually be hard to figure out.
Well, that's true. And since the turn order isn't just around the table, then that's very possible.
There was multiple times where I forgot how many turns I have taken that round, too. So like if I had gotten skipped, I'd be like, well, I guess I took my 3 actions. I don't know.
I definitely had to keep that in the front of my mind most of the game to like be like, okay, where am I at in this round again?
So this is a purely subjective con, and so it's only for our people that does this matter to? Is it going to mean anything? But I feel like the way the game works and how much being efficient matters, that lends itself to you feel like you need to have more strategic thought, but that's just not really super possible. Like you can't really go into this game with I'm gonna do this, because it just so depends on what cards that are out there, and things change so dramatically from turn to turn. I mean, the card you can be aiming to go to, like the action, not exist anymore. And so for me, being somebody who really likes to develop a plan of what I want to do, I just can't do that. And that's probably why I'm not good at this game. I mean, I still really enjoy it as a result of that, but you can't play it strategically, I don't think.
Yeah, I think that's why I enjoy it, because it does feel very tactical in nature. I mean, you can have a long-term plan, but once again, like I have the shiny squirrel moment where I told Tim I was going to do the castle, and then he ended up doing more castle than me. Like I never end up doing...
I did more castle than you did too.
I mean, I only got like 2 guys in there. But like, so that's my whole thing. I was like, I'm going to do this. No, I'm going to do all this stuff. And it just, that's how it works out sometimes. Or
yeah, let me reiterate. It's not that my con is that it's a tactic based game. Mm-hmm. It's that it seemingly requires some level of strategy to get the stuff you need to take actions, but you just can't do that sometimes. So I mean, in a lot of cases, it depends on what exists, and I don't know. and maybe this is not even a real thing, and it's just that I don't excel at it. And Tim always seems to have the stuff that he needs. So
Just to be clear, like, I only do the things that I have. Like,
I'm not actually accusing you of
no.
Like
I'm like you think about this. Like I don't. The only thing that I plan is I need 2 of these things to go do this, and then I just figure out a way to go do that. And that, there's no strategy there at all.
But so much of this is I need to do the thing that I want to do, but I also need to not bankrupt myself for the next turn.
Yes, I don't care about any of that.
But then how do you never end up bankrupt?
That killed me so many times with, oh no, I shouldn't have done that and spent that money because I need that money now, or I spent that stupid like I never had those stupid circular tokens, whatever they were called.
Seals, yeah.
Yeah, I never had the seals, and you need seals to do like everything.
Any
cool.
of the scoring actions, on the
like,
bottom level.
Any of the cool stuff, and you also use them to like move past certain spots on the thing, and I just never had them, and it was hard.
Yeah, so I guess just again to sum all of that up, I definitely think there could be gamers who would feel frustrated in that they can't necessarily effectively plan to do some of the things they want to do long term because that changes and they're just not able to do it. But if that isn't something that bothers you, then that's not even a con. So
yeah, you can't think more than 1 turn ahead. Like you just can't. Like there's no, because it just changes so fast. Like it just and I don't know. I feel like sometimes you have to take maybe a little suboptimal turn, pay a little bit more, or not get like an extra bonus here to do the action you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I felt that too. And in a 9-turn game, that can feel kind of bad.
Yeah, but you absolutely can. Like we played this game a couple times where people have taken actions that you couldn't really do. So like pay $2 to put a courtier out and not pay the pearls to move them, like that. You just can't. You cannot do that. Like that's
you're game over.
Yeah,
if that
Oh,
you've
I
lost.
see.
Yeah. Or
you
like
got to have the stuff when you're doing the action.
Correct,
Especially
yeah.
if you're paying the seal.
Yeah, or pay iron to go do one of the warriors and then not be able to do the bonus of it. That kind of stuff. You can't. You have to be able to do
I mean, the most important part seems to be, and this also feels kind of like, it's kind of got the Coimbra thing where it matters the color of the dice for the actions too. And I like that because you're like, well, black dice are really good on these 2 action spots.
Mm-hmm.
But then, because, you might be able to do 2 of those things and you really want to do that. But then that card might change. Or then that's like that second tier card only has 2 different things on it, but they're all better things. Because like those have the main actions where you don't spend the seals. Yeah, there's just a lot of choices in such a small box.
Other cons.
I mean, it looks like it's really hard to fit all this stuff back in the box.
It was until I removed all the other language rule books. They're just I couldn't bring myself to throw them away because I'm kind of a hoarder in some regards to things. So they're just in like my backup room where my games are. But it does close pretty effectively now. But it was a stretch before that.
Those things hit the recycle bin.
Yeah, that's probably what I should do. But I guess part of me just thinks, what if I don't know? I actually don't have a good reason. I just don't.
What if you're gonna sell it to a Frenchman one day?
There you go. Yep, that's the answer. Yep, that's it.
Final thoughts here on the Board Boys podcast. We have a 3 Boeing rating scale, 0 being the worst, 3 being the best. One time you can give your 4 Boeing game. We got 2 of those left here at the table.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say, I thought I was the only one that used it, but I forgot that Cam is not actually sitting right across
I don't
from
think
me.
Cam's used it either.
No, he hasn't.
No,
but so that's why I was confused for a
yeah.
second. Yep.
That's why I specified at the table.
Yeah.
A 0 Boeing in the White Castle. You never have any seals to go anywhere.
And
Jake rolls all 1s.
And you have
all
no
game.
money.
Yeah, and the dog eats all your money, so you can't even play with it.
You're like, what would you do if there was like, I don't know,
all 1s and you had no money?
10 1s? Like, everybody would do the well and it would just suck. Like,
But you wouldn't even get any money, so you couldn't even do anything with all those things you were getting.
Yeah.
I want to go to the well.
Well,
with
actually, no,
the
it'd be
6.
fine because as long as one person paid for it once, then you can stack something on top of a 1 and you don't have to pay the difference.
Yeah. But if it's all 1s, that would suck. That game would suck.
Yeah.
The 3 Boeing version is you get every single meeple on the board. You always have exactly the right resources you want all game, and your name is Tim.
Feels good, man.
Tim knows the feeling of a 3 Boeing, the White Castle. I also like, I have to always tell myself I got to remember to throw in the, because they put that on the box. So it's, don't call this game White Castle. It's the White Castle.
They probably couldn't call it White Castle.
Well, what if we want to like retheme this into like a burger game?
That would be
It was called White
yeah,
Castle.
it'd be sweet.
I would play that.
Yeah.
The chicken rings would be a whole scoring
Oh my
mechanism
God,
on their
yeah.
own.
Yes.
Someone's got to do it. All right. You know what? I'll go first because I think I had the lowest expectations of this game coming into it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It is on my wish list. I'm going to play it more at BGGCon probably. I'm glad I know it now and can teach it. I'm going to give it a 2.5. I think this game has a lot of replayability, and you can play it so fast and feel so good about playing such a chunky game in like under an hour. And I got to imagine this game feels good at every player count.
So I've played
To
it.
be honest.
I've played everything but solo, and I don't know that I felt like any of them were worse. Honestly, I think probably 3 and 4 are maybe the best because you can't stack any dice at 2 players.
Right.
And if the setup allows where there's only like one spot that you get to do double actions with a colored die, then that's not. I mean, it's not that. Again, you just work around it. But I think 3 is probably the sweet spot, to be honest.
So what do you know what's up with the solo? Is it like super easy?
I didn't even read the rules because I knew I was going to go right into playing it the next day.
Okay.
But I've played this game 5 times already.
But like, is there like a deck of cards in there?
It's a bot.
There is
Yeah.
a thing of cards.
Okay. Because I feel like this game has to be super easy solo.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not, but like you could probably bust this game out solo in half an hour.
Yeah,
Like-
it looks like it lays the steps that the bot's going to do, and I think it says the bot never has to pay for the actions it's going to take, so therefore it doesn't matter the resources. But yep, you're just competing with them, and it gives you kind of a setup guide, and then the cards determine what's going to happen. No,
Yeah.
I should definitely break that out.
Yeah, I mean, for the size of the game, I think this is probably a great solo game. You can probably tear it down and set it up and play it in maybe half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
I think probably.
Which
Yeah.
for a solo game that feels like this feels probably pretty good.
Yeah, I can go next. So, I did a little bit of research. It like before kind of starting this episode with some of the reviewers. It feels like everybody's kind of giving this very middling reviews. I don't feel like
But
this.
it does
game
have an 8.0 on BGG,
Yeah,
though, which
like-
is really high.
like everybody's like, oh, it's just a Euro game. I don't know. Like I think they're. I don't know. I don't feel like that. It's that at all. I think it's very interesting and compelling. Like for me, it's definitely a 3-bowling. Like I like
Whoa.
this game a lot. Like it is Combo Wombo City, and at a 40 like some of the like Luciani games, those are 3-hour kind of like this condenses that down into call it 45 minutes, and I think it's very fun. We played it twice at Carbo Caucus. I think you played it 3
I
times.
played it 3 times
Yeah,
at
like-
Caucus, yeah.
Like we played it a bunch, and it's very easy to get up, very easy to set up, does not take very long, and it gives you a like weighty game feel in a very short amount of time. Like I really like this game.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing to take away from this is that it really leaves you with, I played something substantial and really got to think in again, such a short and accessible window. And as a result of that, I can't ever imagine being like, ugh, I don't want to play that because it's done so fast. Like you're doing so minimal. If you don't have to teach it to people and people are fast, like you can bust a 4-player game out of this so quickly. And that's such a unique thing, I think. So for me, it's a 2.5, which is a testament because this is really not a Jake style game in the fact that I can't long-term plan. Some of the games we played at Cardboard Caucus that really left a favorable opinion for me were things that I was mapped out what I was going to do the whole game when I started, and that's prime Jake. So the fact that this is so high for me when it is the opposite of what I typically like, I think is a testament to that. It's a game people should check out for sure.
This is almost in like Euro filler territory.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we have less than an hour left of game night. Let's play the White Castle.
There's just not many that I think I would equate to being similar. I guess these designers are probably, that's just what they're going for. Because Red Cathedral, again, if you know how to play it, is not a long game, and there's definitely some heft to that as well. And honestly, I'd say the same thing with Shinkansen Zero Kai as well. It's got some heft and is not a long game. So that just must be their niche they
Have
want
you
to live
seen
in.
anybody like AP the crap out of this game yet? Because
I'm sure you could.
I feel like I feel like some people could get frozen in this game.
I mean, maybe,
potentially.
but to some extent, based on what die give you actions, and if one die is just really low and you don't have money, that eliminates a third of your options of where you're going to go right off the bat.
Yeah.
That it doesn't actually leave you with an infinite number of options to take. You just
That's true.
so maybe that is not something I've experienced yet, and I've played
Okay.
with quite a few different people.
Cool.
All right. I think that'll wrap it up for the White Castle. So here on the Board Boys podcast, we have something we like to call the bumper dump. Cam, insert the theme song.
Do it, Rockapella!
Well, she sneaks around the world from Virginia to Carolina. She's a sticky-fingered filcher from Berlin down to Belize. She'll take you for a ride on a slow boat to China. Tell me where in the world is
Carmen San Diego.
All right. So a year ago, we played the game Virtu. It was a 7.8 for 4368. Has it bumped or dumped?
I mean,
It was brand new then.
it's
Bump.
probably a bump.
It is a 7.5 now.
Still a bump.
Yeah, I bet it's over, not under 3,000 though.
Yeah, that's probably about right.
3388. So it's a
Nice.
bump. Neither of us you haven't played the game since then. Have you played it since then?
I have played it once since
Okay.
then,
I
yes.
hardly remember it. that is the impact it left on me.
I remember I probably did it dirty. That's all I can think
You
of.
did it
Top of-
dirty?
Yeah, I mean, I gave it a 1.5. That's about what I can say. It was probably better.
Is
than
that what I gave it to?
You did, yeah. Cam gave it a 2. Jake gave it a 3.
Man, what?
So
Jake,
it's,
what do you do in that game?
So it's a rondelle, and you have 5 actions on your board that equate to the different basically ways you score, and you can move it 1 or 2 places, and you
I
have
just
cards that you
remember I
pass.
was angry at that board all game.
But see here again, as a polar opposite to White Castle, that is a game that you plan for days in about what you're going
Yeah.
to do, and so it hits all the right spots for Jake. But I think that there's so many different ways you can approach that game and things that you can do that it just makes it so interesting to me. So I still think a lot of it. I think I probably would give it a 2.5 now because they're in the scheme action where you can lock down people's stuff, and I don't know. I don't like there's that action is powerful enough on its own without the ability to just lock people out of stuff on their board, and they can be in a situation where they just can't really do anything about it. So I think that's enough to make it not a 3 for me, but it's so interesting to me, and I really, really like it.
I played it again. I'd like to play it again.
cool.
No replies on the Board Game Geek Guild. So if you'd like to, if you have played a game, the upcoming bumper dumps are on our Board Game Geek Guild. If you wanted to weigh in and give us your feedback, let me see. We can go to them right now. So the next couple will be Tealatum. Every time I play that game, I like that game more. Like
I haven't played that for a hot minute.
I think it's very good. It's gotten, it's like it was probably my lower ranked one of his games. I really like that game now. I played it a bunch. Audubon, one after that. Can probably leave that game. I think. I don't know. You liked it a lot.
Dude, I played Audubon probably about 10 times.
Have you played it much since we did it
You
on
still
the
only gave it a
podcast?
2.
Did I?
Yeah.
I like it a lot. It's long.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I
I just remember. So yeah, there were some people that were at our where we play board games at, and they like just busted it. I was like, oh, you guys are in for a long road to just learn this game right
Yeah.
now. You ended up teaching it to them, but
Uh-huh.
yeah, that was like
I wonder if they finished.
I think they did. Like,
Yeah.
kudos to them for sticking that game out without having any idea.
Yeah, that's
how to play
a
it.
crazy one to have no idea what you're doing. Be
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna open this up.
Yeah. And like, what do these things do?
The rule book is hot garbage. So
Yeah. So and then the next one, Woodcraft.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you can go out there. We also have a channel for it on our Discord. Speaking of Discord, you can go to theboardboys.com to get all our sweet links. You can get to the Discord from there. You can become a patron, like our other patrons: Hammond Buckland, BJ from Board Game Gumbo, Shifty Teeth, David Dugas, Andre Bosch, Jeremy Tillman, Braden Dowdy, Rob Cooper, Richard Lane, and Board Game Bastard. The more you get on there, the more cool stuff we can do in the future. Also, if you were on the Discord, got some shirts ordered. If you're interested in a shirt, you can go ahead and email Rob at the Board Boys Podcast. And if you don't live in the Des Moines area, maybe we can work out some kind of shipping deal for you.
I'll ship it to you.
I'm shipping them to BGGCon because the delivery date, unless I wanted to pay like $5 extra per shirt, was not going to get here in time. So I'm trying to ship it to the hotel.
Yeah.
We'll,
I ship stuff to hotels all the time.
we'll see how
It's
that
totally fine.
works. I know. I'm just hoping it doesn't get there before I'm there because that
They'll
feels a little weird.
they'll hold it.
I'm sure they will.
Yeah. Just call them and tell them.
Yeah. So anyway,
Like we ship stuff to hotels when we're going to show up to do
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
and it shows up early all the time.
yeah, we do that too when we go to our program
yeah,
reviews and
yeah,
things.
yeah.
We ship these huge giant black cases full of equipment.
Yeah.
And I always ship one full of board games because I run the board game night at
Love
the
it.
thing. So it's good times. You can give us the 5-star iTunes reviews. Just come hang out on the Discord. Go tell Cam congratulations that he had a baby.
We've started some BGA tournaments on Discord.
Oh yeah, we've been doing some BGA tournaments. I've scrubbed out of both of them so far.
Sounds about right.
We'll probably start like there'll be the TI4 tournament next.
Oh my God.
We're gonna go from
We're gonna-
Patchwork
Whoa.
to TI4.
We're going to do a BGA tournament of TI4 the second that thing comes on Alpha. Like,
I'll see you guys in 2028.
it will be amazing. I mean, we got to get like at least 16 people.
Why? So you can do like 4 games of 4.
4 games of
And
4.
then you can have a top 4.
Yeah, we have a top 4.
I feel that. I'd probably play in that.
Yeah, why not?
Maybe if I play enough on BGA, I'll get good at it.
I think we would have to set up some parameters for turn lengths because those games would probably finish at wildly different times, like months apart.
It's fine.
Potentially.
Yeah, be
That's
fine.
why I said see you in 2028.
Yeah, 24 hours and then, I don't know, you drop out.
God, if only BGA had a thing where somebody dropped out and they had a bot
Bot,
that could
yeah.
play your turn. That'd be pretty sweet. Or what if you could just play... They need just like an AI bot. I mean, come on. The AI is getting hot and popular out
Yeah.
there. Like, they can play these board games.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mm.
All right. Well, until next time, we hope you like board games.
Insert Cam joke.
Cam. Boing, boing, boing.
Cam time in the cam zone.